This video explains how to create a custom wall, how to create a custom structure of this custom wall, give it the appropriate patterns, cut patterns, textures, and so forth. So as the basis, I've started with with two small wall pieces that are made of the basic generic 200 millimeter wall, whatever that is. As you find out, as you might have seen, many of the predefined Revit types, wall types, are, well, let's say, rather oriented at American markets and not how continental Europe likes to build. So let's make a typical Dutch wall spouwmuur with a couple of layers, and for that I selected the two walls that have no fillings as of yet, even if I go to the fine view here, and let's select the two of them and change their type by going to element properties, type properties, and I inserted a window to see what happens at the so-called inserts. So at the moment this is still called generic 200 millimeters, so let's make our own type here by saying duplicate and then spouwmuur metselwerk, so brick wall, kalk, zand, steen. Okay, and then go to edit the structure, and as you see there's only a 200 millimeter generic material here. So let's switch on the preview first. This is the section, vertical section, and let's switch to floor plan and make this indeed the core of our wall. Make this indeed let's say 100 millimeter brick wall, and then as the material I'm going to select masonry brick, but since this has a double diagonal pattern, which is not really how we do it in Europe or in the Netherlands, let's duplicate this brick and call it brick Dutch, brick NL, and for this masonry brick NL, I'm going to switch, just to illustrate the principle, I'm going to switch to a single diagonal crosshatch pattern. I'm going to use this. I'm keeping this red brick. I might change as well the textures and so forth, but this leads too far for the moment, so let's keep this masonry brick as the material, and this is how it's going to be appearing from the outside or from the inside. Second, I'm going to insert a layer that is not a structure, that is not the structure, but is a thermal layer, and I'm going to make that an insulation layer of, let's say, insulation of a semi-rigid, so you might think of stone wool here, semi-rigid insulation. I'm going to copy that and make stone wool of steen wall insulatie. Okay, and as a hatching pattern I would like to have this, and there's no surface pattern, that's not necessary. Shading also irrelevant for our case. So the stain wool, the stain wool is a thermal layer, and I'm going to give it a thickness of 130 to make it nice and warm on the inside. Since this is not really the core of the wall, I'm going to move it outside of the core. I'm moving it up like that, and you see this is this green line being the boundary of the core of the wall, and this is important when you connect, when you can, for example, connect your floors or the roof, or other parts, inserts, so windows and doors and so forth. Above that, I'm going to insert another layer, another thermal layer, air barrier, air infiltration barrier. I don't want to have it gray. I'm going to make it white, to appear white in the section. And there's no surface pattern, there's no cutting pattern. That's fine with me. Okay, and I'm going to give this a thickness of, let's say, 35 millimeters. And above that, from the outside, so this is the exterior side, and this is the interior side. And from the outside, I want to have a lime sandstone, which is called kalksandstein in Dutch. I'm coming back to wrapping. So let's insert yet another layer, and again, this is not allowed to be structure, because the structure has to be inside the core boundary. So this is I'm treating this as the finish of the wall, and I'm going to choose another material here, and I'm going back to masonry, and actually this is kind of what I want. This is actually the hatching that I want, and I'm going to make a copy of that and call it kalksandstein. And this is how I want to, and this is how I want to appear from the outside, like a little bit sandy here, and it's not red, but I'm going to give it a solid. Let's make it a little yellowish, orangish, just like that, probably. Okay. And again, this is going to be 100 millimeters thick. And this is our custom-made Dutch spouwmuur wall. So you might ask yourself, what are these inserts? What about this wrapping? So let's finish this first and take a look at as it appears in our rendering, and you might see that this is not really how you would build it. So you wouldn't have the open insulation in the window frame. So one of the possibilities is to put the outer material and put it to the inside, although you probably wouldn't do that either, but it's more realistic to have it this way. So I'm going to wrap this inside inside this insert. So again, I'm going back to element properties, and then go to edit the type, and there's wrapping at inserts, and I want to wrap the exterior of my so the kalksandstein to the inside, and say okay, and this is the result. Again, this is unwanted behavior, so I don't want this to be wrapped. So again, I have to go to the structure of the whole thing, edit type, edit structure, and check off this wrapping. Okay, so this is more like it. And if you if we quickly going to take a look at the section, we see that the wall here, that the floor does not really extend into the boundary. So I'm going to edit the boundary. I'm going to do that on the second floor, and again I'm switching off the layers, and then I'm dragging that to the you can actually drag it to any reference plane there is, but I'm going to drag it to the inside of the core and say okay, finish floor, and I'm back in the section. You see that is now appropriately is extended into the core, which finishes the custom wall. Oh, this is the outside, by the way, the outside and the inside. Thank you for your attention.